Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Emily, and last week we got to see my office reveal, so I was super excited about that. But today it is back to business, and we are talking about all things weddings and engagement, and I'm going to be giving you my best tips and advice for the wedding planning process. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to give my best tips and advice on the wedding planning process. You know, a lot of people, they get their ring, they're so excited, but they don't know what to do next. So we're going to go over a few things on how to start the wedding planning process. So the first thing that I recommend is setting your budget. And I know that it's very scary and overwhelming to get that budget set, but if you can figure out at least your max number on what you want to spend, that's going to help you a lot. So figure out what that, top dollar is that you're willing to pay for your wedding, and you can kind of go from there. I know that ideally you'd like to set a certain budget for each area of the wedding, but to get started, make sure you figure out that number, and then you can kind of move along in the wedding planning process if you have that max number set. So next you want to figure out your head count. A lot of vendors won't be able to give you a quote or a price if you don't have your count set yet. So you may not know a specific number, you probably won't know a specific number even up until the day, but if you can at least get a range, and in the beginning, if you can at least get like within 50, so say, 50 to 100 people are coming, or 150 to, 200, just set that range as close as you can and kind of get an idea so you can start getting at least quotes to start that wedding planning process on how much each thing is going to cost. So the next thing that I recommend doing is setting that date. Some people, like myself, have the date picked out before they ever get the ring, but if you are not like that, if you can at least get your date within a month. So if you can tell your vendors, like, I'm looking to get married in June, or I'm looking to get married in November, make sure you at least have it within a month. If you have the specific date, that's great. Just know that when you start meeting with some of these vendors, you may not be able to book them, obviously, if they're already booked. So maybe have an alternate date in mind in case you want to keep it a little more flexible. That way you can change it if you want to get the vendor that you want. So the next thing that I recommend is picking your top three. So these top three vendors do not have to be the most expensive vendors. They do not have to be the bulk of your budget. These are just the most important vendors to you. So whatever the most important things to you are on your wedding day, prioritize those and make sure you at least have a top three. So if it's your hair and makeup, your dress, and your flowers, make sure you do not compromise those three things. Do not pull away from their budget to help get a venue, if a venue is not on your priority list. So sit down, figure out what those three things are. If they are the bulk of your budget, that's perfectly fine. I know a lot of people kind of build their top three that way. Just whatever they are, keep that in mind as you're going through the wedding planning process, that you don't want to take away from their budget because you overspent in another area. These are the three that if you're going to hit your max on your budget, these are the three things that you're going to get. So make sure you have those listed out, and make sure that whoever's helping you, maybe financially or helping you in the wedding planning process, knows this as well. So the next thing that I recommend, after you've got your budget set, you got your count, you got your date, and now you have your top three figured out, next it's time to start booking vendors. So you may just start booking meetings to kind of help you finish that budget out, and that's perfectly fine. But the first one that I recommend having a walkthrough with, meeting with, getting on their schedule, is the venue. So the venue is normally the first thing that gets booked with most bride and grooms. So you want to make sure that you get on their schedule, find out what dates they have available, get a starting price at least. That's where that head count's going to come in. So this is going to be the first thing that you need to look at in your vendor hiring process. The second vendor that you're going to need to look at is the photographer. So venues and photographers normally book out about a year in advance. So that's why you need to make sure that you hurry up and kind of get on their schedule, or at least set up meetings with them so that they know there's a potential for that date. Or they can go ahead and tell you, I'm not available for that date, just so you can even start the process. Peak season is spring and fall, so if you're planning on having a wedding in any of those months, you're definitely going to want to do the venue and the photographer right away, because they do book up quick, and they normally book about a year out. So be sure to get on their schedules. The third vendor I recommend hiring is the wedding planners. So actually, it might sound a little backwards, why are they not first? A lot of people are undecided if they want a wedding planner or not in the very beginning of the process. If you know that you want one right away, then yes, I recommend you get that vendor first. If you're unsure, this is kind of the point where you need to start deciding, am I going to get a planner or not? Because again, you need to get on their books pretty quick, because they will fill up and they may not be available for you. The worst thing is if you're in the middle of wedding planning, you are knee deep in everything, it's not going the way you planned, and you're stressing out, and then you decide to book a planner then, and you don't have one available to you because they're already booked up for the wedding season. That's not what you want to happen. So figure out when you're starting to book those vendors whether or not you're going to end up going with a wedding planner, because you definitely need to hire them ASAP, and it will relieve a lot of stress as you start hiring the rest of your vendor team for your wedding day. So those are my best tips in starting the wedding planning process. If you are recently engaged or in the wedding planning process, I would love for you to drop a comment down below. If you found this video helpful, or you know someone who's in the middle of the wedding planning process, be sure to like and share this video with them. And as always, be sure to subscribe so you can hang out with me every Tuesday at 10 a.m. I'll see y'all next week.